Cheryl Parks. Welcome to Whistle Talks. It's so exciting to have you here with us.
I'm super excited to be here. Thanks so much.
You are a speaker, a sales growth advisor. You own your own business. You do all sorts of things in terms of sales,
Yeah.
public speaking, consulting, advisor. Could you please tell us a little bit about your history, how you got into this industry?
I grew up as the shyest girl in the room, like so shy, I wouldn't ring the bell on the bus to get off the bus. I literally just had to step into who I wanted to be, knowing that I had goals and dreams that I wanted to achieve. And they really wouldn't happen with me standing behind someone or not having a voice. So there were
Yeah.
lots of reasons beyond just career that I had to show up for myself and my family. So that was the beginning of it. I probably didn't realize how much diligence and how much repetition and doing the reps and like all the things that go with being successful in sales. And so it
Yeah.
was just a lot of building reps. And I worked for a Fortune 750 company and called on Fortune 1000s and, did some selling internally and externally. And then they quit me, as they say, they broke up with me, and I decided to launch my own firm.
What is your sort of favorite part about your job?
I would have to say meeting the broad variety of people that have so many different interests. Some are trying to leave legacies, some are trying to make their initial mark in their new career, and they're trying to solve problems for their company. I was gonna say active listening, like I really enjoy listening to story and people, but I think it's really the magic that happens when you start to put together a solution because you've listened actively and you know what they're needing and you know what's going to motivate them to make a decision to move forward, and you're working with them, right, as a trusted
Yeah.
advisor.
The topic that we're going to be speaking about today is how to differentiate yourself as a trusted advisor versus a traditional salesperson.
Absolutely. So this is extremely important to me, but really to the sales profession as a whole. So I think we all know that as buyers, we're more educated and more savvy, and we have access to so much more than we've ever had in the history of buying.
Yeah.
So really, people aren't looking to be sold to, they're looking for you to help them make a buying decision. And the way that we do that is by understanding what's important to them, what motivates them to make a change now, like what have they tried in the past. And that listening component goes into it. I'm always interested in the personal motivation, but as well, like what's motivating your organization to make a change, right? And there are a lot
Yeah.
of times people have gone down the road of evaluation over and over and over again. I'm sure you know what I mean. And they haven't
Yeah.
made a decision. So then I'm curious, why would you make a decision now? Or is this just an effort to stay with the provider that you're currently using? So I think
Yeah.
there's a lot to it. I think the active listening, I think asking hard questions, I think putting our own agendas aside and just helping the buyer make their best decision. Those things come through loud and clear. The traditional salesperson will be typically about their agenda, their commission structure, I've got to bring revenue in, or I've got to get a meeting at all costs. It's like, but I've said
Exactly.
like 3 times we're not making a change, but you still want the meeting. Understandably, we have to hit data, numbers, financial, like we all need those things to do our jobs and live, but it's making smart decisions in the moment for you and for the buyer, or the prospective client.
What are some things that trusted advisors do differently to traditional advisors? How does their approach differ?
This is kind of rudimentary, but I really have to mention this: preparation. You have to do the reps. You have to get in here and understand what the organization's about. Anything that is Googleable or chat GPTable, you would want to just dive into it and understand what's happening with the person. Maybe they just wrote a book, the
Yeah.
company, maybe they just put a new president in place, and the industry, right? So you want to understand what the competition, like what's happening competitively, as well as maybe trends and insights. And so I'm really big on preparation. I say that practice doesn't make perfect, it makes natural, comfortable, and confident. And the more you practice, the more confident you can be. And sales is a lot of transfer of belief and energy. So if you're not confident, they're not going to be confident.
Yeah, of course. Like you really have to believe in what you're selling, what you're advising people on. Trusted advisors are always trying to continually add value, right? And add value for the buyer, as
Yes,
opposed to normal salespeople are just like trying to make a sale, trying to
right.
get the meeting done, scheduled. Can you speak about maybe like a few examples of how you have either helped a company or an individual do that, or what you've seen in the market that's something that's really, really, important or that stuck with you?
Yes. So I came into sales in the school of like knocking on doors, small, mid-sized businesses. This is way before a lot of the securities were in place, but walking into an office and just saying, "Hi, I'd like to talk to the CEO, please," and turning around and sitting down. And just like even that demeanor is very, very like yesterday. Okay, so then that's number one. Number two, I think it's also bringing insights to the table, as you mentioned, and that takes studying. That takes really knowing their industry, but not as well as they do. They're not expecting you to be an employee. They're expecting you to
Yeah.
ask good questions where you've gained some insight and you can ask really strong, insightful questions that maybe even makes it would make them think, right? To give a really good example, and you have to be willing to walk away from the opportunity in part friends. This just happened within the last year. I actually was working with a founder, super excited, ready to go, great learner. He was ideal for me, but he had an opportunity to work with another person to get really the core service of what they were doing, to get it really dialed in. And this particular option, I had to tell him, was the best option. You can start talking sales, but if you haven't dialed in ideal client messaging, maybe even your content, if you're going that direction, talking sales is not going to make up for lack of knowing your ideal client. I had to actually say to them, I can't ask you to jump over that opportunity. I think if you come this way, I think we'll both be kicking ourselves. And they ended up coming back like, a few months later. But at the end of the day, I had to step out of the way and they're doing phenomenally. Like it's amazing to watch what they're doing.
How do you feel about pitch slapping?
I don't understand because we know so much, but there's still this idea that you can just hi connect. This is what we do, this long laundry list of like, here are the things we do you want to schedule a call? And I will tell you, with regard to that, I teach from a heart-centered framework, and the T in the acronym heart stands for timing, timeline, and triggers. Timing is when you call someone and they're like, wow, your timing's excellent. We're getting ready to review this. Timeline is we won't be reviewing it until the end of the year, the end of the quarter, et cetera. And trigger is compliance is coming. We have to get this done by certain
Yeah.
date, insert date.
Urgent. Yeah.
Yeah, so I've seen the switch from I used to think trigger was the way to go, but compliance changes all day, every day, and we don't really have that much power over it. So timing has really risen to the top. And so I feel like, to answer your question about pitch slapping, if the
Yeah.
timing is not right, if I'm not looking for, underwater website builders, if the timing's not right, it isn't really going to go. You may be
Yeah.
able to provide some compelling information, but there's a good chance if that wasn't on my radar, it's not of interest. And that is what sales is about. It's that fine line of compelling information versus the timing of it all.
You were saying how trusted advisors need to be long-term, solution focused on sometimes at their own expense.
Yes. Being long term focused as a trusted advisor really will help because there's a thing called commission breath. Everyone that may or may not know this, but
Yeah.
buyers understand when you have commission breath, which means you really are trying to get to quota. You're really trying to get to this commission, and you may have experienced it when it becomes no, not right now, and then you get, oh, we have a special through the end of the month or the end of the quarter, and then they're calling back and they're saying, well, or they're emailing back and they're saying, oh, we can provide a special rate if you do it today, right? Those things are very much about the salesperson getting what they want
Yes.
versus is this the timing that your buyer has for this
Yeah.
particular solution? Yeah.
That's not really like an equal win-win for everybody.
Correct. And it's a lot of effort to typically get nowhere. If the buyer hasn't expressed that they are interested in solving the problem, they usually research their problem, they understand the solutions. If they haven't expressed there's an interest in solving the problem, probably you could offer it for $1 and they're still not going to buy it. And I had a VP ask me this many years ago. I was working on $1 million deal with a beverage company, and he said, if you offered it for $1, would they buy it? And I hesitated, and he said, that's my answer. That stuck with me. So I typically ask myself, is it probably isn't the pricing. It is
Yeah,
probably, do they actually want your solution at this time? And so
exactly.
I always kind of go back and just refresh my thinking around things.
Cheryl, is there anything else that you'd like to speak about in terms of this topic?
So I want to say this, and this is a shout out to Whistle. So your
Yes.
product is part of your process. And so from the very moment that I met your team, your
Yeah.
process was just beautifully done. It unfolded really well. Everyone that I've met is on the same page. I know that there's a culture there, like a culture of excellence. And
Yes.
so people don't always understand that the way you approach the market is viewed as part of your product. So I just wanted to say that I've met actually 4 people on your team, and every experience has been valuable and insightful, and it has flowed for
Oh,
sure.
that's amazing. That's like such a sweet, like little testimonial that you
Yes,
could send out to us. You obviously met with Claire, right?
yes.
Yeah.
And
And then
Claire,
David.
yes. And there's a gentleman, his name starts with a Z, and I only met him through LinkedIn. I don't want to mess up his name, so I'm not going to guess at it. Yeah, so everyone that I've met with has just been stellar. Your process is stellar. How you delivered the overview and the summary was chef's kiss. Like, yeah, I've used you as an example on many occasions.
Thank you, Cheryl. That's
You're welcome.
amazing feedback. I'm
You're
definitely gonna refer back to the team and tell them
sure.
that. That's awesome. I love it. I think you've got a really good like conversation going on LinkedIn. So David, our CEO, got quite a big following on LinkedIn, and he's like very active and loving to like start conversations and
Oh, nice.
do chats with advisors and asking these questions. And I feel like you would be such a cool person to for him to chat to
Great.
and get involved. And we would love to let the other partners that aren't familiar with you, for them to meet you and vice versa. We really, really value our partner network. It's such a successful part of Whistle and what makes us so special. So we really are trying to nurture that. So I would love to stay in touch with you because you are like one of my favorite like sales influencers.
You. Thank you.
So
Absolutely. Definitely. Please
yeah,
let's stay in contact.
yeah. But
Okay.
thank you so much for joining Whistle Talks. It's been such a pleasure to have you on,
Thank you.
and we will definitely be in touch.
Okay.